Democracy, one of the most influential political systems in human history, has its roots in ancient Greece. This is Solon, lawmaker, political philosopher, and poet. He introduced important legal and economic reforms in ancient Greece that laid the groundwork for democracy. This is Cleisthenes. He reformed the constitution of ancient Athens in 508 BC. He's often called the father of Athenian democracy, who restructured the political system to allow for greater citizen participation. This is Pericles, a great politician and general during the golden age of Athens. Under his leadership, democracy flourished, and Athens experienced the golden age in both politics and culture. Let's understand the two main political powers in ancient Greece.
Tyranny, any sole ruler who is not required to give an account of himself, and who rules over subjects all equal or superior to himself to suit his own interest and not theirs. Aristocracy, the rule of the few, morally and intellectually superior, governing in the interest of all. Tyrannical rulers in power started bothering aristocracy. The last tyrant in ancient Greece was Hippias.
There were disagreements among the aristocracy, represented on one hand by Isagoras, who had the support of Sparta, and on the other hand, Cleisthenes, who had the support of the people. Cleisthenes empowered the people by introducing reforms that relied on their collective strength. The people, recognizing their power, played a central role in establishing democracy. They created their own laws and developed an organized government based on voting and greater participation. Although it was not fully egalitarian due to the various restrictions,
Only those whose parents were also born in Athens were considered citizens. Of these, only men older than 18 had the right to participate. Many of them were serving in the war.
Meanwhile, philosophy had already given its first signs with the philosophers of nature, who were looking for the reasonable explanations for the beginning of the world. The pre-Socratic theories seemed to exclude each other as they could not agree about the arche, the first cause. This explains the skepticism from some Athenians about their theories.
Water, air, numbers, fire. Whatever is, whatever is not, cannot be.
Moreover, in the midst of intense cultural transformations, new cultures, new ideas, the growth of the arts, medicine, and philosophy, citizens dedicated to their role in the city, in the politics, which was considered by them as the most important demonstration of virtue, to be excellent in their role as citizens. To do so, they needed the power of rhetoric. No one could establish themselves as a politician without speaking effectively. Because of this, the sophists were in high demand, and they helped those who could afford to pay them to speak well and win any argument, regardless of the truth.
Meanwhile, Pericles guided Athens through a war that would later become disastrous and last many years. By 438 BC, Athens had expanded its influence through the Delian League, though tensions with Sparta eventually led to the Peloponnesian War, which severely impacted daily life in Athens.
Alcibiades, a statesman and general, a close friend of Socrates. He was known for his political influence and controversial ideas, which sometimes challenged traditional Athenian values, including discussions of the divine. These discussions, viewed as conspiracy, led the people to vote in favor of lifting the prohibition of executing those accused of corrupting the oath and disrespecting the gods. In 415 BC, several sculptures were vandalized in Athens. Alcibiades was considered suspect, with other accusations of desecrations and mocking performances of religious mystery ceremonies. although it has never been proved, and some believed it was orchestrated by his enemies. Alcibiades was charged with the crime of sacrilege, but he managed to flee to Sparta, where he assisted them in their war against Athens.
Years later, Socrates was similarly accused and judged by the Athenian democracy, which, in an ironic twist, condemned the man who had spent his life in search of the truth.
After negotiations with Athens' government, the charges against him were dismissed, and he finally returned to Athens in the spring of 407 BC. Athens' involvement in unpopular wars, particularly its conflict with the more powerful Macedonia and its economic dependency on trade routes, led to significant challenges.
As instability disrupted trade in the 4th century, Athens faced economic collapse, which led to domestic issues like the inability to fund its police force. However, democracy itself began to crumble under the strain. Charismatic leaders like Demosthenes rose to prominence, offering seemingly promising solutions but ultimately steering Athens toward military defeat.
Ultimately, these factors contributed to Athens' submission to Macedonia and the end of its democratic system in 322 BC, when Macedonia imposed an oligarchic government on Athens after defeating the city-state in battle.
In our current society, despite its flaws, democracy remains still the best model we have, as the alternatives have proven far worse.
The annals of history, they show us what a despot was King James II.
Our society is experiencing a crisis of political awareness, leading to poor judgment and the rise of despots to power.
Covert ops, guaranteed debt, rigged elections.
In many societies, voter apathy and political disengagement have led to disastrous results worldwide. In ancient times, despots openly declared their power, with no attempt to disguise their actions.
There are different ways democracy can be done. In ancient Greece, people's participation, despite of their limitations, was a civil duty, not a choice, and it was guided by ethical values. Democracy is not something we should take for granted. It is something we have to work at. As individuals, it is our responsibility to participate in political discussions, because politics determines the way we live, the opportunities we are given, the rights we enjoy to have and deserve. It impacts our happiness, and this is not something we should delegate or neglect.